the missing key, the connection. Butilo jaw full of questions. It gets depressing.
Greetings and welcome everybody, Big Budget here. As we all know, the Tony Elumelu Foundation has opened up its online application portal for young African business people to submit their business concepts or running businesses for the chance to get possible funding of $5,000 and of course business mentorship and other benefits. Now today we speak to a prolific young businessman based here in Botswana. His name is Kago Monggae, and he happens to be an alumnus or beneficiary of this Tony Elumelu Foundation program and grant. Kago, welcome.
Thank you, Big Budget.
Right, so perhaps maybe we can start by getting into Kago the man. Tell us about yourself before we get into Kago the entrepreneur. Perhaps a brief background and just your profile generally.
Okay, so I think a good starting point is we are in the backstory right now. We're sitting in the backyard, front yard of the origins of Kago. This is my grandparents' place, and this is where it all started. This is where I'd spend my weekends running around, playing with the ball and everything. Getting lessons, wise lessons from wise old people. So yes, as I've alluded to, this is where I grew up. This is my grandparents' place, and I've gone from here to living in Gaborone with the folks, going through the schooling system, and I'd say them up to a level of a bachelor's degree level through the University of Botswana, where I studied business management, majoring in project and logistics management. I have since then also done a few exams in CIPS, Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply Chain Management, but that's for my personal development and understanding more about how to make logistics work and my value chain, as it were, in the things that I do. I have also gone and done a postgraduate certificate in enterprise risk management through BAC. I'm still working more on my SIPs now, and hopefully, who knows, some masters in the future.
That's great. Thanks so much for that. Perhaps let's get into Kago the entrepreneur now. Tell us about your entrepreneurial journey and perhaps where the knack for entrepreneurship started.
I think one of the key things I'd say is I've come a long way with being enterprising. It's something that I started in primary school, really, actually. And in primary school, what me and a group of my buddies did, we got together, and one of them, the parents had a distribution company which sold snacks and stuff. So the one day we decided, hey, why not go get a box and see if we can sell some candy? And I haven't seen the candy in a long while. It was Mike and Mike's. Oh. Yes, so they're sort of like Skittles, but jelly flavored sweets. So what we did, we got a box of that and we started moving it at school, in primary school. Yes, moving product. I think that was back when we were in standard 5, if I get that correct. So we did that, and we moved, sold, and then it was actually like a loan. So we got the stuff for free. We came back and said, no, we'd like to buy more, and whatever we kept as profit, we split amongst each other, and we'd go to the movies and buy the popcorn. Because you get an allowance, so your allowance would be, okay, I can go to the movie and get popcorn and a drink, or I should get candy. Now we could go to the movies and get popcorn and everything in the.
So it's safe to say that your first business venture was profitable.
Yes, it really was. All right. And then I guess primary school ended, and I was off to boarding school. And in boarding school, I guess it was a very slow start. First 3 years, nothing much really happened. It was academics, sports, and enrichment most of the time, and friends and the jol and everything. I think in grade 10 is where I started getting back into my enterprising knack, and similarly so, it's where I actually came across bees for the first time. But I didn't start with bees. I just came in contact with them through a biology school trip, where we went to a local apiary where they kept some bees, but we observed more of the production process of it all. So in the production process, we were looking at how the beeswax was handled, how the honey was extracted, and it's where I found my love for bees in a way, looking at that whole process. But yes, so in grade 10, that's where I got back into business, and I opened a little tuck shop in my boarding house.
Oh, okay.
Yes, des bonbons. So that's French for the sweets.
Of course.
So so I used to sell the nice junk, you know, the chocolates, the sweets, the energades, the fizzy drinks. That's what I sold out of
Sweet
it.
stuff.
Yes, the sweet stuff, the stuff you don't get when the tuck shops close.
Oh, of course.
So it got up and going, and yeah, I used to sell hot beverages, and I'll say hot beverages because there was no fridge to keep them cold.
Oh, okay.
And as time went, I went and I was able to buy a little bar fridge. Got the bar fridge. It was a little lockable one, so I was able to throw in the drinks to become cold drinks.
Business was growing.
Business grew, and it was an interesting time. I didn't really pursue the economics and finance and accounting route back in high school. I was pursuing more of the physics, biology, chemistry, geography side of stuff. So it was interesting to have to do my bookwork because it wasn't anything I'm learning from the classroom per se. It was just the basic business studies that I'd had from the previous years. So as we specialized, that's where I was focused, and it was interesting. I got to learn a few things about managing finances, making sure that what you sell is what you sell, and where your profit is where your profit is, and trying to make sure you keep your money separate. So that's in a nutshell, that's how the enterprising journey came. Went to the University of Botswana, and that's where actually now I got started with that first love of mine from the earlier 2000s.
Right, so I get that, and it's always very interesting how, striking the balance between getting the theoretical knowledge of business stuff and then also getting the practical knowledge. So one could say that you were already getting practical knowledge in your high school days, rather than having to get the books to teach you this and then going to apply the stuff thereafter. So thanks for that. But what would you say on your journey so far has been the biggest challenge? And in talking about this challenge that's been your biggest challenge, tell us how you may have overcome it.
I don't know if it's a paradox, but understanding that finance is a big challenge, but it's really not the biggest challenge you'll face in business. I mean, a lot of times we like to look and think that getting the money, if I get the money, everything will be good. But the reality is you can have all the money and not know what to do with it. So for the longest time, my biggest issue was, where am I going to get the money to do this? How am I going to do it? Am I really going to be able to? This thing costs so much. Until I actually have to sit down and understand that, no, you know what? If it's a good business, people will back you.
Absolutely.
So it's breaking that, and I'll say that norm, because the first thing anyone thinks about when they want to go into business is, where am I going to get the money? Instead of how am I going to prove myself to get the money. So with the business, that's the challenge that I really had to overcome, because you still do need money to get into business.
Definitely.
But if you don't have the money, it's that much harder to get into it. But that's not the biggest challenge, because the money can be there, but if you can't do anything with it, it's a bigger problem.
Definitely. And I think, you've alluded to something very important there, and I think we'll get into, the Tony Elumelu Foundation and how you got involved with that, but we do notice that they also fund businesses that are at concept level, so to say, where it's not necessarily about you having had the finance, but if you've got a workable idea, if you've got something that's really viable or feasible, then you could get the opportunity to get funding. All right, so now that we've spoken about your challenges, maybe tell us about what you think your biggest takeaway or the best lesson that you've learned would be. Of course, outside the fact that you've spoken about the finances, but any other takeaway that you think is of note from your business journey?
I'd say we all face similar problems. They may not be the same to the full stop, but in business we all face similar problems. And we need to be able to acknowledge and accept that, because once we can acknowledge and accept it, we can learn how to leverage from each other in different and creative and new ways. I mean, if I was to put an example to it, most people say an 8-to-5 job gives you the most security that you can have. Do that and do a business on the side. And it does give you security to a degree, but the reality is even permanently employed and pensionable employees have a contract that stipulates that you've got a 30-day window period of which you can either choose to terminate your employment or your employer can terminate your employment. So
Not necessarily very secure, come to think of it.
Yes. So the only real security you have is you can somewhat be certain of the next 30 days without having been issued with that. And no matter where you're going, whether you're in entrepreneurship, whether you're in business, whatever you're doing, you will always be inexperienced until you gain the experience.
Absolutely.
So if you put something off for 10 years, you've fallen behind 10 years worth of learning.
Wow, it's a great takeaway. I like that. I like that. I think maybe now we can get into more of this Tony Elumelu Foundation
Yes.
program. Tell us what the program is. How did you come across it?
So for me to come across it is, I'd say, I guess I've got the right people backing me in my corner. And the reason why I say the right people backing me in my corner is because it was people who, in my formative years of starting the beekeeping, that were the ones to say, hey, have you heard about this? You've been talking about how you're ready to grow the business now. You don't want to, it's no longer a hobby per se. You've learned what you can and now you want to give it a business go. There's this program, there's this these scholarships out. Have you thought of the Mandela Fellow? Have you thought about this? And so when I looked at all the other stuff, it wasn't really speaking to my end drive.
Okay.
And my end drive is more on the sustainable business side and not so much on the leadership and engagement side of it, because you have to pick where you play.
Of course.
And if you're going to play in the leadership side, you should be making sure that all your model business processes can sustain and support that. Whereas I'm more for, I want to get the business done. I want to get into business. I have lots of ideas in my head. I'm an idea mill.
Yes.
And I've got lots of failures which are learning curves that I can show you in my history books. There's a file I keep like this of every venture I've tried or every venture I'm still to try.
Yes.
So I had to pick and choose, and the Tony Elumelu Foundation, that program spoke to me. And when I looked at the past 7-8 years that I've spent investing in learning more and more about the bees that I keep, I was like, well, let me give it a shot and go. Let me put to paper, well, in this case, on the electronic spreadsheet, what it is that I've learned and what it is I envision, what it is that I dream. And it's an interesting program because it's truly an African program for Africans, by Africans.
Lovely.
So it helped my buy-in into it. And it's all because a previous customer who'd bought a jar of honey before was like, hey, have you seen this? Try it. And I was like, Nigeria, it's so far away. Do you know how many Nigerians there are just to start with?
Exactly.
Where on earth would my one application land in all of that?
Yes.
And they're like, no, don't short shift yourself.
Exactly.
Believe that you can do it. Put something together of what you know, how you know. So I have been working on a business plan, and at the time it was something that I thought, okay, I can go to CEDA. But I was also looking at it that, wait, when I look at my business processes, CEDA has a cost to that capital. The capital I'd raised before was mostly through my savings, my personal savings, and I was really bankrolling myself to learn more. And when I looked at CEDA, I wasn't yet ready to pay for the cost of that fund.
Cost of that capital.
And this came by and it's a grant. I was like, okay, well, maybe I can try this. I didn't qualify for the youth grants locally because I was employed.
Oh yes, of course, they have that stipulation.
Yes. And the nature of business that I'm doing can allow me to actually, up until a certain level, do both.
Yes.
Due to my business processes.
So you can have a balance of
I can
sorts.
have a balance of sorts between those. Yes, I have to choose where I chop and shop other things out of my social calendar to focus on the business.
Which is
but
necessary.
It's part of life.
Of course.
So in that, I was like, okay, let me throw this business plan in here. And then I was like, okay, wait, but this is just speaking a plan. It's not speaking what's in my heart. And then I chopped and shopped that because I was looking to go into business and give this thing a business go. So they had to believe in my idea, but also it has to be an idea that's spoken of in my words, not just a business plan's format. And I spoke what my piece was. And out of 300,000 applications, I was one of the 1,000 that were picked.
Wow.
And I was just like, wow.
Congratulations.
It was a very interesting moment finding out that I'd been selected. I'd diarized it on my calendar. I had reminders on my phone. And that day my phone battery died, so the reminder didn't ring, and I woke up in the morning saying today is D-Day.
Yes.
And it was a very hectic work day in the office that day, and I put on my phone on charge that evening, and I look on my WhatsApp, and messages are just flooding into my WhatsApp. Congratulations! I'm like,
what's going
I don't
on?
remember getting married, and it's a Friday, so it's not Thursday.
Of course.
So I'm just wondering, why is everyone and it's just bzz, congratulations, you did it. And I'm wondering, what on earth did I do?
done?
What fraudsters out there doing something with and my phone rings as I'm thinking, it's like, Kago, have you seen your name? My name where?
Wow. The
On the
anxiety is
Tony
building up.
Elumelu. I was like, wait, TEF. Quickly log on, and the results announcement is going on there, and then I see Kago Monggae, Botswana, successful. I was just like, wow. I started screaming and jumping about the house.
I can imagine.
And at the time I was at home, and my mother looked at me and she's like, what are you on? I was like, I'm in, I made it. What did you make it into? A program, but you'll see the outcome when I'm done. So it was an experience.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I take it you definitely encourage other young African business people out there to try this out?
I really would. The program this year has taken a few changes in the way in which it's set up and structured.
Okay.
But the changes are welcome changes, and they're actually good changes, because now it's giving more people access to go through the program. And based on, so with going through the program, you now get to learn all the different aspects of what goes on in a business and how you can plan for it, so you can get to a point of growth. The idea is the grant is there not to make a fully fledged business for you. It's there to give you a stepping stone to be able to get further, or a leapfrog moment for you as a business person. So with access to the trainings for a greater pool of people, it also increases the competition for the seed capital. So now the seed capital will not be preliminarily awarded, it will be something that's awarded at the end of the program, based on your participation and your progress through it. And I mean, for us, it was a 12-week program that literally chopped down a business plan into the different segments. And every week you were doing assignments and tasks related to that specific area, whether it's a brief on what your business is. And I mean, I thought I had a bomb business plan. But I'm not an accountant, and I don't like dabbling with accounting. That I can tell you from the get-go off the bat. But I do need to know, and I do appreciate and understand how my money flows, how my financial flows are in the business. I just don't like the process of doing accounting. So it is a weakness for me in terms of the doing side, but that's where some elements of that program, when we got to the financial planning, I appreciate it, because things that I used to say, no, if I know what's going on here, I can tell people what's going on. No, I had to learn now. No, but just like in university when you did your accounting, you need to make sure you account for the stuff properly, because this is someone else's money and they need to see the results. So it goes through everything, through your formation of the business plan, your marketing plan, your strategic plans, your staffing plans, your execution and milestones, your financial projections, how you can pitch your business, ways to think creatively and out of the box, how to collaborate, how to make your processes more efficient. So that's looking at how do you now, instead of saying I'm going to hold a meeting, how can you use hacks in the workplace for you to make sure that certain things are done quicker. Make template reports. I used to have a report that I did every time I checked on my hives, but through the program I've actually chopped that report down, and I've made a template that I can actually quickly track and tick off what I need to tick off and write what I need to write, which has reduced my administrative process dramatically. So it's more efficient for me to do it. At a point where I'm still looking at how to integrate certain technology and interface certain activities, because part of being in business, you have to find ways to be a pioneer and first to do certain things. So by automating certain processes and being able to have platforms that I can use to work off of, I can now all of a sudden not need to write out my report with my clipboard. I can literally come with my tablet and tick, 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 tick. Yes, I've seen this. Yes, there's this. No, there isn't this. This would be within this range. And automatically I've got information which becomes big data at a point in time. I can look at my harvest. I mean, right now, I have a file that I keep like this since 2010 when I started beekeeping. And I mean, when I tell people, look, I expect that in February I'll be harvesting the first batch. In May I'll harvest my last batch of honey. Everyone always looks at me and says, why so far? And I can tell them, look, with the way the rainfall patterns happens in this area where I keep my bees, I know that it takes this long for the first honey crop to come out, and then this long for the last honey crop to come out. And my first honey crop is I usually put that to operational expenses to build up and fix up for that last honey crop. So I have the capital to buy all the bottles, all the branding, everything I need for in anticipation of what's coming.
Of course.
By understanding my records that, okay, no, I've harvested this many kilos at these intervals, I'm better able to forecast my demand schedule, my supply schedule, and keep my customers currently happy and informed.
Right. You know, before I get people to share how they can contact you, I don't think we actually got into Kago's Bees itself, the business. What is it? What does it do? And how can people access you?
All right. So Kago's Bees as a business is a beekeeping business.
Okay.
It's a business that I started back in 2010-11 in university. Through shaving off some of my monthly allowance, I bought my first box, and I contacted the local ministry on availability or bees that I can acquire. And there was a bunch of problem bees in the village of Ramotwa, actually.
Oh, what a coincidence. What a coincidence.
And they said, look, you can have them, but you have to work them out of where they are. So I came in and I was like, yeah. So I dropped off. I literally went to the office and I had a bee box. I was like, here's my box. Dropped my gum boots, dropped my overall, dropped my veil. This is actually where it all started. This is one of the first veils that I was using.
Okay.
Yeah, so came and I said, here's my veil, here's everything. They looked at me and they're like, wow. I was like, what's wrong? And they said, you seem to be one of the few beekeepers or aspiring beekeepers that come knowing their story and what they want.
Ready.
And when following day we went and we got the bees. They were in they put themselves inside a tire that was shaded off by some planks, and they built in there. And so they started getting to work, and I was asking them questions like, geez, you ask a lot of questions. I was like, yeah, it's because I want to know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Exactly.
If I see this next time, I don't see a need to call you.
Exactly.
I can do it myself. And they said, no, you wouldn't. And I said, I will watch, and I got stuck in there with them. Got stung a lot of times, but you know, these are things that you learn as you go, how to do certain things better, and you start to research. So that is what Kago's Bees does. We do bees. We do bees for honey.
Oh, lovely.
So recently we've started looking at how to do beeswax and other organic natural products, being lip balms, soaps, and body balms. So we're still in the testing phase and getting our formulas right. So that's something new and exciting to look out for. But otherwise, we've been focused on liquid honey. So we take the honey out the hives, and then we'd extract the honey from the wax, and then bottle that as liquid honey, and then from there retail that.
Or retail.
Yes, and then of course we can provide consultancy services on and around beekeeping, and as well as do bee removal inspections, and that it is a service and it does come at a fee. So we look at what your problem bees look like and how we can help you and advise you in terms of getting rid of that problem. Because ultimately, yes, it's bees and honey is great, but bees do pose a danger to life, both human and non-human, and also to infrastructure. Damage.
So how can we access you? How can we reach you?
So for Kago's Bees, currently we are on social media. We do have an Instagram page at Kago's Bees, and the same on Facebook at Kago's Bees. So we do post some of our activities and engagements as and when they're going through the page. But such as the digital economy and the digital world we live in, we're able to be accessed through there. You can drop us a message, drop us an app. We'll be more than happy to help.
Thank you so much, Kago. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Kago Monggae of Kago's Bees. It's interesting to see young people who are engaged in businesses to such a level. Now, we've put all the hashtags and links below so that you can access everything with respect to Kago's Bees, of course, and the Tony Elumelu Foundation, and of course, Big Budget for more of these videos. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, like my outfit? So what we'll be having now is a short tour of how the whole beekeeping business goes with Mr. Kago Monggae. Let's get to it.
Full of questions. Give out the missing key, the connection. Busilo jaw full of questions. Nyegen kamba manga fetu, it gets depressing. Youngin with the wisdom of the sages. Blazing ages, made pens and pages.
You can place that down over there, somewhat next to the box. As you see, more and more bees are all over, but it's part of the process. And they seem to multiply. They're gonna multiply some more.
Oh, okay. This is not it.
Oh no, the fun's now about to start.
So they don't have like a mating season or anything.
They
just
do. We're
multiply.
currently in that window, but a queen mates once in its life. And keeps the eggs until keeps those eggs until it dies.
Okay.
Geez, this is a problem.
All right.
No, I'm seeing a lot of hive beetles. So this is what the insides of a hive look like. Valuable. So you can take a look at what ripe honey looks like before we go deep down to the last inserted. There's what honey looks like
Oh, okay.
when it's ready to be eaten.
This is ready. So it's edible already.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is honey.
No chemicals to be added or anything.
Nothing. You can scoop it up and take a bite.
Ah well. Yeah. Got the mask on and everything.
Oh, we can unzip you and
No.
feed you.
I won't take that chance, man.
so each one of these weighs between 15 kilograms to 20 kilograms. Each one of these little sections.
So this would be
When
15
it's-
times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So 1, 2, 3. This is a
Oh, okay.
brood, so this is where they breed. This little metal thing stops the queen from breeding up here. So all I want to do now is get into this, because this is the last one that I put in.
All right.
So we just smoke it a bit, and then we now start to get ready to do the work, the heavy lift. So what this does, this black stuff here is like glue. It's bees glue.
Oh, okay.
So it's very, very sticky stuff. So you first want to pry it open so that everything is
Oh, it's
loose,
loosened up. Yeah.
so that you can actually get it off. So yeah, that's very cool. So I'll just do one at a time. As you hear, the sounds are getting,
Oh, so there's more and more as we go. Wow.
so you're gonna find more and more bees deeper we go. So light smoke is used so that the smoke doesn't really make its way into the honey per se. And in order to manage the population, what's doing is keep a lid on it to keep as many of them in there. And then we're gonna show you what honey looks like when it's still in production. We'll use these two frames. Where did I put that frame? Okay, so as you saw that, those combs were sealed.
Yes.
Now these are not yet ready for consumption and the bees are still working it,
Oh, okay.
as you can see.
All right.
see they've started sealing that up. So when they start to seal this up, it's because it's getting better. And if you can see, these holes aren't all the same size. They get bigger there and smaller there. That's just for breeding purposes. So they'll so a box will have anything between 1,500 to 5,000 bees inside, depending on how big the colony is.
Oh, okay.
And all of these are girls. So you see, they actually build out. So this is how they build and build and build. Beeswax is actually white.
Oh, all right.
What makes it not so white is honey. So as you see, the girls are happily productive and working.
Oh, so that's where the term busy bees comes from.
Yep, very much so. But they're not very aggravated right now, which is good. If they were very aggravated, we'd be hearing them.
They got manners, they know they got visitors.
Bouncing off of your veil, going boing, boing, boing. And now because I'm the chief aggravator, they're all going to come. Right. As you hear. So the smoke is just to calm and dull.
Quite interesting.
And we've done an inspection.
Yeah, yippee. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an inspection. It was great. Challenging, but we made it through. And this is what he goes through on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. Yeah. That was great. That was fun.
All right. So what we're going to do now, we'll take a walk around the yard, and just to reduce the amount of bees following us, so they believe that we ran away, and that they're happy also that we're no longer a threat to them.
All right. I guess you might have to smoke me up, per se.
No, we're just going to walk and talk.
All right.
All right, and that's a wrap.
The missing key, the connection. Botelo Joe full of questions.